So several years ago, and I remember this happening in our Reading Road Church. So those of you who've been around a while know how long it's been. Reverend Judy gave a sermon about Munchie the dog, from who she learned a lot of life lessons. And, it was a really super duper service, but there was one problem with it. It was about dogs. It wasn't about cats. And anyone who knows me knows that I'm a cat person. They're nice and they're furry and they're soft and they're sometimes stuck up and they're always entertaining. And there are lots of things to be learned from cats. So she had this really cute little book that was full of pictures, which I don't have, but I think we can make a few points anyway. So in 2 Timothy 1:7, it says, "For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control." Now, to me, power, love, and self-control are basically the overriding lessons we can learn from our cats. If we use our power, our love, and our self-control, all fear of whatever life presents us will be gone. In other words, by using that love, power, self-control, there's a solution for everything. It might not be the solution that we ourselves had planned, or it might not be the solution somebody else would like us to choose, but there is a solution. So let me give you some examples of what I mean, some of the problems that we might face. The problem of food, okay? Cats, of course, we know, are natural predators, and left to their own devices outside, they can usually come up with a mouse or two, or a salamander in the case of my little guys, to take care of the needs. What about the indoor cats who are independent or who are dependent on their roommates, on their human roommates? Well, here's a variety of solutions. Let's first of all, and I know some of you will recognize these, let's try the lick them in the face solution. This is exactly what it says. Simply wait until you can wait no more, and start a campaign of lick, 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 until the human wakes up or gets up, gets the message, and gets the food. Or let's try the perfect timing solution. You know the household routine. You know what it means when the alarm clock goes off. So when the said alarm clock goes off, you follow one human around, mewing constantly until food is placed on your dish. And then how about just the old plain, I'm tired of this, I'm going to wake her up solution? Well, one of my cats, by the name of Jack, who is commonly referred to as the tiny turd, has learned that when my grandkids lived with me, there was a toy that when a button on its top was pushed, it went, "Ooh, I love you." Well, if that gets pushed enough, it's guaranteed the human is going to get up and provide some food. Yeah. Of course, besides problem solving, such as the problem of getting the food, cats can use the spirit of power, love, and self-control in many other ways. So let's explore some of these other ways. Let's start with power. Now, it usually feels like cats are exhibiting the kind of power that means the capacity or the ability to direct or influence the behavior of others or the course of events. Okay? Which means they control our lives, But I also think that they have the ability to act in ways that empower their own lives. They appear to have a great love of self, which comes over to many of us mere humans as arrogance or not caring. They seem to say, I love you, but I love me better. But I don't necessarily think that's such a bad attitude to have. We hear, and a lot of us say a lot of times, if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be able to take care of others. And most of us seem to believe that. How many of us really follow through on those words? In what ways do cats show their attitude of self-power? Well, what about their general attitude? You know, the arrogant, couldn't care less one. Perhaps that's actually more a knowledge of their own selfness, of their own self-empowerment, their pleasure with being in their own skins. They don't usually need others around to make them feel okay. They're perfectly happy doing whatever it is the cats do. Sleeping, playing, hunting, whatever. If they feel like being around their humans or other animals, great, but it's not a necessity for them. Cats are masters at teaching their humans how to treat them. I gave you a few examples earlier. When they do want their attention, nothing will stop them from getting it. For example, my Jasper cat has this freakishly long tail. Here's the proof. Oh, this is my Jasper cat. And here's his freakishly long tail. Anyway, he knows how to use that tail. If something had been placed on his table, I can be sure that no matter what it is, the offending item will be knocked off as soon as it gets in the way of that cat. And if I'm too slow in reacting to the tail, I'm pretty sure that his response will be to find the nearest paper and start chewing it apart until there's paper all over the floor and little wet pieces of lovely stuff to pick up. So he's really good at getting what he wants when he wants it. So they're also good at telling you when they want attention. You know, little furry faces shoved in your face, or, you know, pulling your hands down to their body if they wanted petted, or, you know, my favorite is, you know, sitting on my keyboard or sitting on a book that I'm trying to read until, you know, I decide to give them attention. So cats will go to great lengths to tell you what they want. Sometimes I think that we as humans back off sometimes. I mean, you know, there are times when we need to be a little more assertive in telling people what we want. So, but the thing is with cats, it's usually, and it may take forever, but if you don't respond, they'll accept the situation and just settle down as close as possible to its desired location and let the vibes flow over them through the waves of energy. Cats rarely walk away in defeat. If they can find a way to turn a not quite victory into a win for them, they will. And nothing seems to, the seeming attitude of, well, you might think you won, but I really did. If it doesn't work out exactly as planned, they'll just go on to plan B, settle in, and be content. So, you know, cats can also teach their humans about respecting them. For example, try to pet them in a way they don't like. You know, little nips and things might happen at that point. Tease them too much and see what happens. You know, lots of ways that cats just won't put up with it if they're just tired of it or if they, you know, want something else. So let's go on to the lesson of setting and reaching goals. Well, you know, I've talked about the goal of getting food and how they can do that. But how about other stories? So let me share a story. So I've had a couple of 3 different cats that wanted to go outside, and it was a major battle to keep them from sneaking out every time the door was open. And this was a female cat, and she's not with us anymore, but I thought I had solved that problem because I had a screened-in back porch. So I figured, hey, that'll be great. She'll just go out on that screened-in back porch, and she'll enjoy everything. That would be a win-win, right? Wrong. So I want you to picture this. The porch, the door to the back porch was at the end of a long hallway that went the whole way of the house. So now there just happened to be a little teeny bitty little hole at nose level to the cat in that screen. So I have my door open, thinking the cat's going to go enjoy the porch. Nope. She goes clear to the back of the hall runs up the hallway, takes a running jump, puts her nose right in that teeny tiny little hole, and bursts through that screen outside. So the hole wasn't teeny tiny after that, and I gave up on my plans for making her just a house cat. So, her goal had been to get outside. She figured out how to meet her goal, and she acted to complete her goal. Pretty smart cat. Obviously pretty dumb human, but anyway. So, how does this translate into humans and their own power or their own selfness? In Matthew 6:34, it says, "Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." I believe that cats get their selfness and therefore their power to act of themselves by simply living in the moment. Know certain strategies that will work to deal with things that may come up, but then forget about what could possibly happen, what you might need to do about it until the actual event. This is what will give us the spirit of power, going back to our scripture from Timothy. Now, let's move on to the spirit of love, which Timothy also says is a gift from God. Cats are notoriously independent. How can we possibly learn anything from cats about love? Two simple questions. Have you ever seen a cat sleeping with its cat brothers and sisters? Have you ever seen a cat clean or lick another cat that's in pain or distress? Both are very loving, very pleasing to the eyes of humans gestures. I've seen my cat sleeping in such a tangle that I literally couldn't tell where one cat ended and the other began. I've seen cats use as pillow, blankets, and even binkies for my grandchildren when they were little. I've seen little ones crawl under big ones and big ones position themselves protectively over the little ones. Many of the positions certainly don't look comfortable, so the only reason I can think of for them to be sleeping that way is to provide comfort for their brothers and sisters. And a little story about that is one of my cats, this is my only cat you will never see because she's hiding right now and she always hides, but she is desperately allergic to fleas. Well, since the tiny turd over here loves to go outside and is an escape artist, he does bring fleas in. So, of course, I do my best to keep up with it, and usually we're pretty good at it. But even the tiniest little exposure can cause nasty bumps on the head and the body of my poor little Jill. So eventually, she needs to get a cortisone shot to take away the bumps. But in the meantime, the other cats go to work on her. As she starts to react to a flea, the other cats use their healing gifts. They nip and lick and rub and even hug as Jill fights her battle with her nasty nemesis. Of course, it breaks those of us who are cat owners, you know how much it breaks our hearts to see them in pain. But it also warms my heart to see her brothers do the best to help her out. Kind of like a friend or family member who goes out of the way to provide chicken soup and blankets and companionship to a friend who's sick. So that's kind of a cool experience to see the cats take care of each other. So my Jack cat, as I said, the tiny turd, hold on just a second. I'd like everybody to meet the tiny turd. This is Jack. Anyway, he loves to go outside with me while I'm sitting on my porch. Those of you who follow who I'm friends with on Facebook know that that's one of my favorite things to do when the weather's good. So he loves his Aunt Nancy. Now, Aunt Nancy, Reverend Nancy Joseph, some of you know her, is my back door neighbor. So we go outside and Jack will do his usual things. He'll watch birds, he'll run around, he'll go to the cat lounge. Cat lounge is a little gathering place where all the stray cats on the neighborhood like to sun themselves. So anyway, so he'll do any of these things he does when he's outside running around. But as soon as he hears Aunt Nancy's door open, now, and Aunt Nancy's door is back here. The cat lounge is over here, okay? But as soon as he hears that door open, he'll come running down the hall, full speed ahead, usually meowing, and it's the funniest meow you've ever heard in my life. Okay? Once he's visited with Nancy, he's perfectly happy. She'll put him back in my house, and he's perfectly happy. He's had his outside visit, and he's good to go. So these are just a couple of examples of how the spirit of love can emanate from cats. They definitely, to me, exemplify the worldwide law of love: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Now, I'm talking simply about taking care of people, okay? Cats have fights and disagreements. The term cat fight, which they're over here kind of having a little bit of cat fight right now because you hear weird noises, that's why. Anyway, people have fights and disagreements. But in the end, it comes down to putting aside those fights and disagreements, at least long enough to take care of a friend, a neighbor, or even a stranger who needs help, a stranger who needs love. And we've all heard the famous line about love from the book of Corinthians. So the last lesson to learn from our cats is about self-control. You know, we know cats can be very focused on what they want, and they can express those needs to us in various ways. But there's also self-control to be had at a time when self-control is the last thing we want to do, when we wanted to shake in our boots, okay, when we wanted to go off on somebody for something they said, or, you know, push the accelerator down and go for it, or just sit and do nothing, or do the work that's there instead of taking a moment for ourselves, okay? I'm talking about the self-control that takes intent, that you really have to work about getting it together, okay? Or that might even require some courage to do it. So let's say we're facing a new situation. We know nothing about it, except it's something we're being driven to do or something we have to do. And, you know, kind of like our spiritual journey sometimes. We don't know why we're going to do or even how we're getting there, but we know we have to go. Of course, sometimes we don't think about the results after, you know, that we're going to have to go. So let's talk about how this relates to cats. Going back to Jack, the tiny turd. He is a tiny cat. He's the smallest one of the bunch. But boy, does he have self-control. Okay? When he's guided to do something by however he's guided to do it, he's bound and determined he's going to get there. Then he has to sometimes rein himself in to deal with the results of that. For example, he loves to sit on the soffits in the kitchen. Now, I have no clue how he gets up there. You know, I'm assuming it's chair, table, counter, refrigerator, soffit, whatever. He always does it when I'm not there, of course. But then he has to deal with getting down. And that's the issue. When you're a teeny tiny cat, I'm sure it looks like a long way down there. And I've never seen him get down either, but, you know, he does manage to get down there. And he has to do this by gathering that self-control, which brings him the courage to get down there. Okay? And sometimes when we're in situations, whether we make those situations ourselves or whether we find ourselves in them, sometimes it takes all the self-control we can have, we can muster to get ourselves out of those situations. So, and also very quickly, the self-control that cats show when they're hunting, and they just are staring at their prey and, you know, just waiting for the exact right moment. Sometimes I wish I could better wait for the exact right moment other than opening my mouth and sticking my foot in. So anyway, kind of in review, what can we learn from cats? Remember, what Timothy says is, for God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. And St. Peter finishes the thought for us when he says, now for this very reason also, applying all diligence in your faith, supply moral excellence, and in your moral excellence, knowledge, and in your knowledge, self-control, and in your self-control, perseverance, and in your perseverance, godliness, and in your godliness, brotherly kindness, and in your brotherly kindness, love. For if these qualities are yours and are increasing, they render you neither useless nor unfruitful in the true knowledge of Master Jesus. For he who lacks these qualities is blind or short-sighted, having forgotten his purification from his former sins. So by having that power and that love and that self-control, it leads to a whole bunch of other things and ultimately leads to us being the better people that we all seek to be. So to me, it's absolutely amazing what we can learn from our furry friends. I hope that all of you guys who have cats can relate to some of that. And I hope that you who don't have cats can understand why we love our cats so much, even a little more. Thank you all. So thank you for listening and for being here. So now it's time for the meditation. So sit back in your seat, get comfortable however you want to get comfortable. Start by taking a deep breath in, a deep breath out, breath in, breath out, and 1/3 breath in, and 1/3 breath out. So we're going to take a walk in nature. And it doesn't matter whether it's cold like it is today or whether it's a very warm day. We're just going to take a walk in whatever nature we enjoy walking in. And we're going to look at the trees, and we're going to look at the other vegetation that's around, whether it's a bush or grass or whatever. And we're going to listen for the birds. We're going to observe the animals. I'm just going to take a minute, and this meditation is kind of up to you, because if you enjoy sitting and observing, that's what we'll do. If you enjoy walking or even running and observing, then imagine yourself doing that. So as you observe the nature, you focus in on one thing, be it a plant or an animal or a cloud or a rock or anything that's around you. You focus on that one thing. And as you focus, you let your mind wander. You let your mind take in what it's going to take in. And you focus on the qualities of that particular thing. The physical qualities, what does it look like? What do the colors mean to you? What does the shape mean to you? If there are any actions, what does the action mean to you? And you sit or stand or walk, and you contemplate this particular part of nature. And you ask, what can this particular part of nature teach me? What lessons can I learn from this? What does this point out about me that I want to focus on more? What can it tell me about my relationship with others? What can it tell me about my relationship with spirit? As you contemplate this part of nature, you thank it for being a part of your life and for bringing you the lessons that you learned today. Stand up or begin to move or move faster. Pointed, you move away from the area where you were contemplating the nature. And you wake up and you come back to yourself. And you thank your surroundings for being part of your learning. Now time to come back to the room. Wake up. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Welcome back.